Greetings. Greetings. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Give people a couple of minutes to log on. Hope all is well. Hope all is well. I'm going to share to my personal page. If you would do me a favor and invite others, if you don't mind, share to your pages, tag somebody in the comments, and invite them to the conversation. We're not going to be here long, but it's going to be tight and right. So if you don't mind sharing, hey y'all, hey y'all. Good evening. Good evening. We're going to give people a couple of minutes. In the meantime, yeah, if you don't mind sharing with others, that would be great. Hope y'all had a great day. Hope y'all had a great day. Did you? Yeah. Turn that off. Yeah. Hello, hello, y'all. Hello. Thank you for joining me. Came on a little bit later tonight. Just participated in a pretty cool business conference. And so still wanted to come on tonight and have this discussion. But that's why it's an hour later than usual. So I'm gonna give people about another minute or so to hop on and join us. Thank y'all for being here. I really appreciate you coming on and spending a few minutes of your evening with me and unwinding with me. I hope y'all had a great day. Mine was pretty cool. So yeah, this is going to be a good discussion. Yes, thank you. I'm glad you had a good day, Londa. Yeah, mine was good as well. Yeah, so welcome. All right. Dr. Bird in the house. Thank y'all for hopping on. You know, as I said, feel free to share to your pages. If you don't mind, I ask you to share to your pages or tag people that you think would get something out of a conversation and actually having a conversation with me, because, you know, this is not a one-way street. We talking here. We talking, right? So with that being said, for those who may have missed last week, this is a continuation of Losing My Religion. And this, I am in the sex edition, right? So we kicked it off last week. And this week, we are going to talk more about sex and the church. And specifically, we're going to be talking about, I am saying, self-pleasuring, because, you know, they be doing all kind of stuff with these tagging of words. And I don't want no mess. So, self-pleasuring and porn. Hopefully that's okay to say on here, but I'm saying it, okay? In the church and the church, right? As I've said from the very beginning of these sessions, this is not an attack. It is a challenge, okay? The church has been good to me. It's all good. Hey, y'all, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me. We're not gonna be here long, but it's gonna be tight and right. And I thank y'all for sharing your evening with me. But as I was saying, that we are talking about self-pleasuring and porn and the church. My whole point of these discussions, I want to be just very clear from the very beginning, because some people are uncomfortable with these discussions. Some people don't understand. Some people like, you doing too much. Why are you talking about this? Ooh, these are deep topics. Okay, sure. It's life though, right? It's life. It's happening. It's all around us. It's not just out there. It is in the church. Okay. And until we start getting real, then we are going to continue to have certain issues, right? So as I said, my point is not to attack, it is to challenge. It's to challenge the secrecy, it's to challenge religious mindsets, it's to basically shine a light in the dark, dusty, cobwebby, crusty corners. That's what I'm here to do. And it's also to like raise questions and to give all of us food for thought. I don't have all the answers. I have more questions than answers, which is why I want to have these conversations with you all. My Lady Lessons is all about learning life lessons. I'm learning some, we're learning some, and hopefully we can learn a few together. So that's what this is all about. So let's hop into it. I had looked up some videos, just curious to see what was out there in terms of the subject of, self-pleasuring and the church. Now, the reason why I put self-pleasuring and porn together is because many people put it together. They are often partnered together. If you're doing one, you're doing the other. If you're participating in one, you're participating in the other. Many people believe that. It's not really completely true, but for some, they do go together, right? So that's why we're talking about them together, right? Question: how many of you have been told either directly or indirectly that self-pleasuring is wrong? You can just say, yes, I was told it was wrong. Whatever, just however you want to express it in the comments. This is a conversation. It ain't a lecture. Trust me. It is not a lecture. How many of you were told directly or indirectly, specifically if you grew up in the church, that self-pleasuring is wrong? Okay. All right. I see you. I have. Okay. Okay. And I don't even have to ask about porn. Most people in the church, that is an automatic. Porn is wrong. It's a no. It's a okay. All right. Self-pleasuring is more of a middle ground in terms of specifically being talked about, right? Not to say that no churches talk about it, but again, as we talked about last week, it is an automatic and immediate, just don't do it. It's wrong, bad, no, right? I too, and honestly, I think it was both for me because I did grow up in a very robust youth group, back in the day. And okay, somebody said it was like sleeping with the devil. That's interesting. Like sleeping with the devil. Okay, I don't think I've been told that exact thing, but I have heard other people saying, I would say more of late, where people have been referring to, making covenants in your sleep and, these type of things, like if you're having any like sexual dreams, having sex with people in your dreams or any of that could be you doing some type of covenant or some type of demonic, having sex with a demon and all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know what the spiritual basis is of that, but I have heard those type of things. So that's really interesting. So yeah, for me, I would say that it was just kind of understood. And like I said, I think it was either directly or indirectly said that anything in the sex arena or anything that will lead you to potentially having, intercourse was a no-go. Okay. And so, I'm for these purposes, I'm going to first talk about the self-pleasuring part, right? Because I think that for a lot of people, it is a confusing thing. And when I say confusing, it's kind of like, I always say we are spirits having a human experience, right? And what I am challenging the church on is that we do not do enough to acknowledge that fact, that we are spirits having a human experience, that we are in physical bodies, that our bodies are made a certain way. Okay. So with that being said, I'll go into a little bit of a story. As I shared last week, the whole thing of premarital sex, all of that was okay. Don't do it. Wasn't a lot of discussion as to, going that deep into why it's, against God's word, a bunch of things. We shared a lot of, scriptures and all that stuff. You can go watch the replay if you want to. Okay. So this is a book that I got in my late 20s. It's called Every Woman's Battle. Has anyone heard of this book? It's called it's Every Woman's Battle, Discovering God's Plan for Sexual and Emotional Fulfillment. Late 20s, I got this book. Now, back in the day, I am a reader, right? But back in the day, before I got married and even after marriage, I was on top of any type of relationship books or whatever, because that's what you do. You're supposed to be preparing to be a wife and all of that stuff. And that is true. It's good. But my brother wanted to burn my library down. He told me to stop reading all of those relationship books because it was going to send me off, because, it just planted a lot of, I guess, fantasy about relationship in my mind. And perhaps he was right. I don't know. But I remember coming across this book, and she does go into self-pleasuring in this book. And of course, the angle was that it was wrong. Now, the reason I was reading this book as a married woman is because I got a lot of wake-up calls once I got married. Now, again, anything I say is no shade to nobody. This is my story, okay? This is my experience, okay? And I'm not going into tidbit details, but I will say that I was clueless when I went into marriage. My mindset was very much so that, well, I didn't mind if my husband didn't stay on the purity train, or he wasn't on the purity train. I was like, well, one of us would need to know what we doing. So I was okay if the man was not. It was almost an expectation that the man would not hold himself for marriage. This is another issue within the church. This mindset is perpetrated in the church, that the purity piece is heavily put on the women and the girls. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing for the guys. And I'm sorry. Now, some of you guys, you may disagree with that, but would you say, you gentlemen who are on here that was raised in the church, did you feel that it was equal thing for between the guys and the girls in terms of the burden of purity? And as I said last week, I get it, because women carry the evidence of sex. We have the ability to get pregnant, most of us. And so we carry the evidence. So most of the burden is put, I guess, for that reason, on the woman. But my mindset going into marriage because of that was extremely faulty. Extremely faulty, and specifically in the sex area. It was like I put a lot of expectation that, I was going to be taught. I was going to be handheld into, bliss. And that is a faulty mindset. Okay. That is a faulty mindset. Okay, because everybody is not like that. Hopefully now I have this thing plugged into my my internet box. So hopefully, are we good? Can y'all see me? Are we still good? Is everything going straight? All right, because I saw a little bit of signal issue. Okay. All right. So with that being said, okay, except someone gave you this book in your early 20s. Okay. All right. I'll be curious to know what you felt about this book. I would say that this book actually raised more questions for me than answers. This book did not make me not want to self-pleasure. I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it real. This book made me want to dive deeper, because I realized at that point, and I had been married for a few years at that point, that my mindset was faulty when it came to my own sexuality. Because for all of these years, it had been do everything in your power not to even think about sex. Okay. So because of that, it was a lot of, if you did think about it, if you did anything sexual, it was this underlying shame to it. It was an underlying, this is wrong. I know I'm not supposed to be doing this. I'm not supposed to be thinking this. I'm not supposed to be visualizing this. I'm not supposed to be fantasizing about this. That's how I felt sometimes, okay? Because I thought I was good by just not physically doing things, right? But that actually led to a lot of things, again, including a very heightened expectation, okay? There came a point in my life as a real grown woman that I started asking questions, and I started understanding that I needed to know more about myself, that was not anyone else's responsibility, that was my responsibility, and that there was nothing wrong with that, okay? There was a journey getting to that. Now, when I say that, I'm not advocating for self-pleasure, but what I am advocating for is that we need to be real about the fact that, number one, these things are happening. Like, people are self-pleasuring. They're just not talking about it. And they feel guilty about it, and they feel shame about it, okay? It's like, okay, I'm not supposed to have, if you're not married, you're not supposed to fornicate, i.e. having sex outside of marriage, okay? And then on top of that, you're not supposed to, like, don't even sniff it. Don't think about it. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Ignore any feelings, to the point that I believe some of us are walking around semi-dead, super numb. What is supposed to happen once you actually get married? It's going to be a miracle, right? All of a sudden, you're going to feel super amorous. Everything is going to be perfect. You know exactly what you like. You know how to communicate with the man or the woman and let them know where the spots are. Like, it's a miracle, right? You tell me. Do you think it's possible to know yourself or learn yourself without any type of self-examination? Y'all can answer in the comments. If you're bold enough, I'm here. My face is on the freaking thing. So it's all good. I'm posing questions. Now, some people say within the church that, so you say, no, you don't think that you can. You don't think that you can learn yourself without any type of, okay. Now, when it comes to self pleasuring, okay, because there's physical aspects to our existence, right? As spirit beings in these bodies. When it comes to the word, there is the whole thing of, the whole fleeing youthful lust. Anything about lust is a no-go, right? We know that that's in the word, right? LOL, it is good to know what you like. I agree. I agree. But I think many of us, especially that grew up in the church or are growing up in the church, that is not advocated for. Tell me, what is it that your impression as people, that for those of you that actually grew up in the church, what was the messaging that you got in regards to, were you ever given the message that you need to know anything about yourself sexually before marriage? How many people were given that message to know your, okay, you say you have to know your body. Is that a message that you got in church though? That's for the guys and the females, like for both of us as men and women. Is that the message that we got, that we needed to know something about ourselves sexually prior to marriage? We know that we're not supposed to have sex outside of marriage, okay? But are we supposed to know anything? Are we just supposed to, come in hot, slide in and hope for the best? Okay, no, not in church. I was told that that's something that you and your husband explore together. Okay, no. Okay, all right. Something that you and your husband explore together. Yeah, I think I got that message as well. So for those who have been married or who are married, okay, do you think that, especially if both you and your spouse, hopefully, if we even having this type of discussion, hopefully, both you and your spouse are believers or whatever, did y'all come in on the same page of, a discovery mindset? Or was it just, we're glad that we're free and clear to do this now? I'm asking. I'm asking. Okay. Nope. Okay. Definitely not. We were taught to just deny ourselves. You're funny. I'm funny. I'm trying to keep it real and trying to keep it funky, but at the same time, now it's been years since I picked up this book. What I will say is that part of the issue and the reason why I really want to be very open and direct about discussing these things is because I think that whether you're a youth, as we categorize, whether you're a single person, whether you're a young single, older single, or whether you are married, the secrecy, the shame, the lack of discussion, and the lack of transparency is causing a lot of issues. What is it causing? It's causing people to give up hope, to feel like they cannot live up to the standard because they don't even understand where their power lies or how to do it. We are in a highly sexualized world. We are in the world, but not of it, right? We do have the ability to do that, but if we have not been properly equipped with more than just don't do it, with more than the junk is failing. How do I know? How many pregnancies do we have in the church? Those known and unknown, i.e. people that, come out pregnant and they not married, or they just take care of the situation behind the scenes and only a select few even know that they were pregnant. How many people are sexually active in the church with other people in the church? Something is not sticking. And I think that we need to not change the standard that's based on God's word, but I think that we need to make a clear clarification and a separation between what is religion, what is religious tradition, and what is truly God and relationship with God. And the why, right? It also causes insecurity of the body. Okay. What do you mean specifically insecurity? What causes insecurity of the body? Not knowing yourself sexually, or give a little clarification on that. The other part of this is, as I said, I was a married woman when I got this book. And I tried to have the discussion with my then husband. my interpretation of his reaction was that he was uncomfortable with the idea of even discussing it. And so he shut me down pretty quickly and just was like, yes, it's wrong. It's wrong. So guess what that did? That cut off communication between he and I about this subject. Let me tell you something, for you married people, you and your partner, you and your husband, your wife should be able to talk about anything, any thought, any desire, anything. And specifically, because we're talking about this is the sex edition, you should definitely be able to talk about anything when it comes to sex. If you cannot, there is a major problem. That is supposed to be the closest person in this world to you, is the person that you lay down in the bed with every night, that you share a household and a life with. And if you cannot talk openly about sex, there's a problem. Amen. Okay. Yes. Amen. I was taught to keep myself covered, to not cause men to stumble. I didn't feel comfortable in my body until late 20s. Wow. Wow. And that's real. That's real. Again, we talked a little bit about the purity culture and how a lot of the burden is put on women in terms of even not tempting a man. And there is a place for that. Don't get me wrong. There is a place for that. Okay. If you are constantly having TNA hanging out, cleavage and butt cheek, yes, we know this is a problem. Okay. You know that's going to cause a man to look at you and think about sex. We know this, right? Okay. So there is a place for that. However, I do think that it is off balance. And sometimes it goes over the top, as we talked about last week, with you can't even show you don't. Like right now, me showing my arms will be a problem for some people, and it gets ridiculous. Okay. We have to learn together in our marriage about sex, how to make each other happy. Yes. So true. Absolutely. And if you cannot talk about it, if you're used to having this is the other thing, the secrecy, where you're used to compartmentalizing your life as a believer, the things that that are, against the word or against the church or whatever, you're so used to moving in silence and secrecy because there's not a safe space within the church to have open, honest, authentic conversations about whether it's struggles, whether it's thoughts and feelings, whether it's deep diving into why, God says not to do certain things or why he has it for certain times and places. If you have this stigma around, even just basically talking about sex, then that junk does not go away automatically because now you're married. And a lot of people have a lot of deviant behavior that they are operating in secret. And then when they marry this person, this good old church man, and they know they've been out in them streets dropping it hot, they've been dropping it low, right? But they don't want him to know that because they want this, purity image. And then they're stifled within the marriage relationship. And it's just not healthy. It's not a healthy dynamic. And this is why I am coming on here talking about this, because we need to stop it. We need to get real, and we need to go ahead and start having these open, honest conversations, right? And by covered, I mean long shirts and baggy jeans, shorts under skirts, etc. Yeah. I remember those days. Yes. I remember those days. And especially if you are a woman that, has something, you got, larger breast or, legs, butt, whatever the case may be. Sometimes there are some women, it don't matter what they put on. their shape is going to come through, and it's not fair to make them feel like something is wrong with them, or their state of being is enticing and they're not even doing nothing. They just got a t-shirt on, but if they breast big, it don't matter if it ain't even a fitted t-shirt, you can still see that their breasts are big, and that's not their fault. But you know, these are things that we deal with, right? Not we, because I'm the itty bitty committee. I don't have that particular issue, right? So let's shift gears a little bit into the porn piece of it. And like I said, we're not going to be on here very long, but so when it comes to porn, I think that's clear cut. Now, I did forget to point out, I purposely wore this particular dress because this dress has black and white and a little bit of gray in it. And what I wanted to symbolically say with this dress is that a lot of times in the church, we act like everything is black and white and there's no shades of gray. And that is not true. It is absolutely not true. And until we start acknowledging that we are spirits having a human physical experience, and that we have to learn how to operate more in our spirits in a deeper way, not just a religious don't, until we are able to reconcile and find the balance between the two and learning to live to that standard, this is what we're going to have. We're going to continue to have the secrecy, the hypocrisy, the shame, all of that, because we can't even have a conversation because we too, we too holy to even have the conversation. And then we expect people to get married. I know too many married people right now who are struggling to have freedom of mind first in the bedroom. And they are supposed to be free and clear to do whatever they would like, as long as they're in agreement. It says the marriage bed is undefiled, right? But a lot of times you have secrecy even between the two people within the marriage. And then we wonder why the junk falls apart. Like, really, it's ridiculous, okay? Why do we have youth running around and kind of basically growing up in the church, being certain things instilled in them, and then they completely deviate the moment that they have the opportunity to? It's because the methods are not working. Because we are literally not even acknowledging the human factor and the basic body factor. Like, the reality is we do have hormones. We are sexual beings. We do have sexual feelings, okay? How do we reconcile the spirit with the physical bodies that God created to operate in a certain way? Again, I'm not suggesting that we drop the standard. I'm not suggesting that we should be free to fornicate or free to whatever, but we need to start having these conversations to get to where is the balance. I personally have come to a place where I recognize that I went into marriage with a faulty mindset. I should have known something about myself sexually. I should have known something about my body before going into marriage. I should not have just gone into marriage expecting the other person to teach me something. Now, not to say they, but I'm saying, and just because someone has been sexually active, many of you know this, you can be sexually active and don't know anything still, except for how to put something in a hole. Let's just keep it real. I'm not trying to be, whatever. And the same thing with a woman. A woman can just be, you can be sexually active, but don't know how to do nothing but just lay there and be the hole. Not trying to be crass, but I ain't trying to tiptoe around it either. Okay, I have a friend who was in a sexless marriage. Wow. His wife would not have sex with him. I don't mean rarely. I mean not at all. Wow. When they were dating, he thought they were just waiting until marriage, but that's not how it went. Long story short, he is remarried and they good. Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Q. This is another thing. A lot of people are hiding behind the standards. They hiding some other junk behind the standards. Like in this case, of course, you're thinking, well, we're doing it God's way. We're not even kissing until the wedding day. I'm not making fun of people. I don't agree with that. That's not me. But some people are like that. They can't do nothing. They literally can't do nothing without going all the way. So do your thing, whatever. Okay. But sometimes people are hiding dysfunction behind the standard. And then you get married and you realize, oh, is this person even attracted not only to me specifically, but to people? Sometimes people are literally attracted to the same sex and they've married you. And you don't find that junk out until now it's an abnormal sex life. And it's like, there's a lot. So we have holes in the way that we've been approaching this whole sex thing. This is what I said last week, and I stand by it 10 toes down. We have failed as a church when it comes to how we are handling and addressing the whole sex conversation issue, all of it. We have failed because too many times this type of stuff has gone on. I know there was a couple where it was the woman who, was like, okay, she would have been down if he was down, but he was like, we're going to do it God's way, blah, blah, blah. And so she's like, oh, it made her feel so good that, okay, that particular pressure is off, even though I'll be good with, whatever. That was her place at that time. They get married. Turns out this gentleman had a erectile issue that he knew about, and he hid behind the standard. So here she is. She done waited a couple of years, because they doing it God's way. And God's way is good. I'm not coming against the standard at all. What I'm saying is that we need to get real. There's some mess that's going on and the standard is being used. Okay. Someone else I know thought they were waiting. Turns out that things, right, exactly. This is what I'm saying. And she had no idea. Yeah. Had no idea. Yeah, these are not the surprises we want. No, we do not want those surprises, especially when you have intentionally like, okay, I'm going to do it God's way. I'm going to hold myself to marriage. I'm going to either hold my virginity, that I never did it, or I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to abstain and I'm going to wait. I'm going to do it God's way. And then you got some joker, whether it's a female or a male, that is coming with the trickery, hiding behind the standard. And this is why we also, good people, have to operate in discernment. Religion is out the game. Religion will get you caught up. There has to be a level of discernment, which is a part of relationship with God, not religion. Religion will not get you there. It will not. Okay. I think we need to divide religion from true Christianity. If the word Jesus is not the center of our lives as the ruling authority, then no one else or nothing else is equipped for that position, whether we know it or not. Most people that grew up in the church has not necessarily grown up in the word for ourselves, developing a personal relationship with Jesus. Exactly. That's exactly what I was just saying, that religion will cause you to get it's because we tend to I call it over spiritualizing. We over spiritualize things. We over religiousize things because this is what we're supposed to do. And it's a lot of times we are blindly doing it. We're blindly doing it. We don't even understand why we don't have that. We have not had the conversations with God, the revelation from God that actually will empower you to hold yourself to the standard. Usually it's just it's a mechanical thing where I was just told that this is wrong. Okay, but now I'm feeling these feelings or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to sneak and do this, but I know it's wrong. But you're not empowered from relationship here. It's about what other people are going to think. Other people, as long as no church folks see me doing this, or if the only church folk that see me doing it is the one that's doing it too, that's the religion part. And that has jacked us up. I'm hearing this type of situation happens often. Yes, it really does. That's why I'm not for the games no more. I'm not for the games. When you're dating, do you mention that you're abstinent? If so, at what point do you do it? I've experimented with doing it up front and withholding off to say it. What are your thoughts? Okay, as far as the abstinence, so I do not wear it on my sleeve. I don't wear it on my sleeve, and this is why. It's a state of being for me. So I just walk in it, okay? But I will say, lately, I've had to reveal that directly to a couple of brothers pretty quickly. And the reason why is because their energy was overly sexual, right? So I don't come, and especially when I'm first investigating a guy, I do not come to a situation, even if it's a dating situation, whether it's a friendship, a budding friendship or whatever, especially when I don't even know if I like the man or not like that, right? So I'm not coming out the gate. Let me tell you right now, you ain't getting none. If you want some, you ain't getting none. I don't do all that because I'm not trying to, of course, I'm tuned in to whether I am attracted to him in that way, romantically or whatever. But, I don't that's not the forefront of my mind. But depending, I am a reactor to the man, right? As many women, if we're walking in our femininity, we receive and respond to the man, right? And his energy. So I have found more recently, there's been a bit more sexual aggression where it's kind of like, okay, hold on. Have I given you I have not given you any sexual energy, yet you sending me, inappropriate text messages. You're sending me, whatever. And I have not given you that type of energy. In those cases, I have had to directly tell the gentleman, I'm abstinent. So walk on by if that's obviously what you're on. And then, of course, usually there's a backpedaling and a moonwalking back. Like, oh, no, I'm just like you. I'm just like you. No, you're not. You're not just like me. You're not. Tanya said, "What? That's wisdom. I wouldn't either. I like the term state of being." Yes. I don't usually mention it. I just flow, listen, and observe because sometimes folks just disqualify themselves anyway. Exactly. When I was super saved, i.e. religious, I did that, but that's not where I'm at either. Yes, absolutely. And I tell women too, do less talking and do more demonstration. It should be more showing than telling. A lot of women do a lot of talking and they be the main ones with the dress up. I'm just going to say it like that. You don't even have to do all the talking, just be. And when bruh, approaches you in that way, or if he directly asks, then yes, but a lot of times if a man he is, like you said, he's going to reveal where he's at pretty quickly. Right. And then you have to but if, again, a lot of it gets so deep. I'm trying not to jump too much around because it can get pretty deep on even the motivation of the woman. sometimes, you know, it's kind of like you want to feel desired and you feel, you know, whatever. And especially if you're still struggling in that area in terms of even self-image, right? You may position yourself, put yourself in a position because you like, well, I want to feel desire, but I ain't trying to necessarily go there. But then, you know, you're kind of playing in the gray, right? That's another issue, right? So, but yeah, I don't wear that on the sleeves. Let's go into the point a little bit really quickly. And like I said, we're not going to be here much longer. Yes, we're not going to be on here much longer. First of all, I think the fallacy is that porn is just a male issue. It is not. Many women struggle with being addicted to porn or watching porn or being interested in porn. And so that's real, right? I will say that another fallacy when it comes to porn is that it is not, how do I say it? If you see an image, have you ever heard a song and you just heard it in the store, like you went into the grocery store or whatever, they were playing music, you weren't even listening, you trying to get your lettuce and your whatever and get up out of there, right? But that song that was playing in there, it's 2 hours later and you find yourself humming the song and you like, I haven't played this song. I haven't, you know, this is not a song that was even on my radar. And then you realize that song was in your subconscious from just walking in the grocery store. Images, sounds, what we're exposed to, they tend to stay with us in our subconscious, right? So when it comes to porn, just like I said last week, to me, I can see why porn falls in the black and white. Why? Because it can be quite addictive and dangerous. Okay. What is the danger to it? Number one, the industry itself. Let's keep it real. This is Women's History Month. You know, porn is not great for women. And in particular, now, you know, men are in it too, whatever. But in particular, it is an industry that uses women and objectifies women and all that kind of stuff, right? The other part is a lot of people, porn, and some people would always also say this about self-pleasuring, but definitely porn is almost like on the drug addiction end. I used to work with a gentleman years ago, and I do mean briefly, that had an issue, right? I literally went on vacation and then came back and this gentleman was gone. He had gotten caught looking at porn on his work computer. They gave him a, you know, slap on the wrist first, you know, whatever, blocked his access to the sites, even to the internet, all of that kind of stuff or whatever. He had to figure out some type of way, whatever, to do his work. This man actually was so addicted that he found a way to put it back on his work computer. He could not go through the workday without looking at it and ended up losing his job, his livelihood. So porn, to me, is in a whole nother category, even though people partner the two together. And I understand why they do that, because a lot of people do one while they're doing the other, right? Yeah. Tam said, yeah, it's definitely, hold on. Oh, sorry, I missed some of these. Okay, but I heard a big group of guys say they go for women who parade their abstinence status because they know that these women will give it up if they use the right words and behavior. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times that is the case. And sometimes the woman is not necessarily playing games, but maybe she's trying to convince herself, and a man can smell that from a mile away. Because it's like when you're doing too much talking about something, it's kind of like, all right, we'll see. We'll see. It definitely is not a male issue. Exactly. I agree. Pornography is an addiction. It really is. It really is. It's scientifically proven to change brain structure like a drug. People start to crave it. Pornography isn't always addictive. Trust me, I know. No, not always, which is why, but see, it depends on the person, because again, we talked about before that some people have addictive personalities that they can't just hit it and quit it and be done. Some people, it can be consuming for them, or they can struggle with. Now they may not be to the, it's levels to it. It may not be to the level of this gentleman that he couldn't even not go a work day without doing it. But some people actually, they struggle with it for years. And there's a lot of secrecy and shame to it. And this is another reason why I am talking about it now, because there are a lot of people that are really, really struggling in secrecy, and they feel ashamed about it. And it's the same thing in terms of even within a marriage, right? How many of you, if your partner, if you caught your partner looking at porn, would you, how would you respond to that? Do you think, especially if y'all go to church every Sunday, or y'all read the Bible every day or whatever, would you look at them differently if you did not know that they were doing it and you discover them doing it? Let's be honest, because this is some of the stuff, because of the shame and the secrecy surrounding specifically porn, and even the self-pleasuring that is, and you're by yourself or whatever. Okay, you said I would be disappointed. I would say heck no. Okay. Okay, I'd be upset because he wasn't watching it with me. I Carolyn. Okay, yes, I would look at them differently. Okay. Would you, so for those of you who would be disappointed, upset, whatever the case may be, look at them differently. Why? Is it because, one, you genuinely think something is wrong with it? Two, you think, what wrong with it, as in not just, sinful, but then some people are not necessarily in the church and they just think something's wrong with it, right? And then, or is it that you did not know they were doing it and it was a secret from you? And if you had known, you would have felt better about it? Like, what part would be, or do you just think they nasty? Like, let's keep it real. Like, is that what it is? Okay. Especially if he was doing it secretly, that is very telling. Plus, if he has an addiction, I might feel like I wasn't good enough. Okay. Forgive the long post, LOL. Oops. We, our spirits, have a soul and live in a physical body. The body responds to the lower nature and is not equipped to lead. Feel the feelings, follow the body, and you will sleep with a different person every day. Group of folks and even animals, literally, LOL. Ugh. Our bodies do not belong to us. We are the temple of the Holy Spirit. Things are flipped because we are not as conscious of who is inside of us and our true identity in him. This is a long one. Okay. Oh Lord, hold on. Miss my place. We're supposed to renew our minds, follow the Holy Spirit, and tell the body what to do. Jesus is the creator and author of all pleasure, and he is the finest, most powerful, beautiful God, man, in the universe. No shame in him. Everything else is a trick and bondage for the stinking devil. Okay, I get that. And okay, I hear you and I agree. This is the problem that I'm having, though. We put the spiritual part on there, and it is not, and it's not to say that we're I do agree. Yeah, the flesh and all of that stuff. The part that you said earlier was so long, I forgot what you said. I'm not suggesting that we let our body lead. Okay, I'm not suggesting that. What I am suggesting is that we acknowledge that it exists, that there is a sexual part to our being. There is a sexual part to us. And I feel like as the church, it's like we don't really want to acknowledge that, or the way that we acknowledge it is under a shroud of shame. Therefore, that shame does not necessarily go away when you're now in a position of where this is where the safe zone is, i.e. marriage, right? And even we're going to talk about, so I'm going to hold my breath on that one. Okay, it's like cheating. Oh, okay. So how many of you feel like if your partner is looking at porn, that it's like cheating, and especially if they're not doing it with you, like it's in secret? Okay, same what Q said. Okay, you would feel like you're maybe not enough for him or good enough. Okay, I would let him know you don't have to watch that. You can watch me. That's right. That's right. That's another thing. Okay, so how many of you as a married person would be open to being recorded with your spouse and you all watch yourselves together? Because see, this type of stuff we ain't talk. When we say the marriage bed is undefiled in the church, like we don't want to talk about this type of stuff, because sometimes people are so, they don't even want to talk about it with their spouse. Like if they want to explore certain things, it's like, well, we're good church folk and we're not supposed to do that. But if y'all wanted to do it, is that okay? If you together, do you all think there's anything wrong with that? If the couple, the married couple, wanted to? Cute. Then again, if it's a true addiction, I guess they can't help it and need therapy and deliverance. Okay. Yeah. I'm being serious though. I would only feel comfortable with him doing it with me. Otherwise, I'd be concerned as to why he needed sexual stimulation outside the two of us. Okay. I get it. I understand that. And I think that's how a lot of people would feel if they didn't know that it was happening. I think that because of the shame part of it, especially within, I think that there are a number of men, especially Christian men, that feel that and have been taught that and understand that something is wrong with porn. And I'm specifically talking about the man-woman porn. There's all kinds of stuff out here, right? So I'm just keeping it to the level of you catching your spouse watching the man-woman version. We don't even have to bring up if they're watching other things. That now, to me, that would cause some other issues for me. It would be definitely levels to it, right? Okay, I remember when Eric Benet came out about having a sex addiction. I didn't believe it was a real thing. So maybe that's why people who are addicted to sex keep it super secret. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's something to that. And then also sometimes I think people are hiding behind that as well. I don't know. That is a slippery slope right there. I'm not sure. I do know people can be addicted to sex, but I think that some people are not addicted. They're just cheaters and liars. And then some people legitimately have a problem. So yes, me, what are you talking about? Me, what? I don't know where to me what. Okay. Oh, you would be willing to do it. Are you referring to the homemade video with you and your husband? We have made our own video. Okay, I'm not surprised. I wouldn't want to record it. I was there. I don't need to watch it. But if he wanted to, if you would you rather him watch y'all, or would you rather him watch the other stuff? If there was a choice. I have a friend who wants someone to develop Christian porn to learn things and keep her marriage sexually healthy. Interesting. Okay, so I guess that would go into Christian. What would make the porn Christian? Now, I do know, I actually came across a Christian like sex therapist. I think she was on TikTok or whatever. There are people that like instruct people on different like sexual positions or understanding sexuality within their marriage, and help couples in understanding even their different sexual styles. Matter of fact, Netflix had a really good documentary or docu-series. I think it was with Gwyneth Paltrow. Have any of y'all seen that? It was called Sex Something and Goop or something like that. I forgot the name of it, but I found it extremely interesting. There was a husband and wife on their couple on there. There was a husband and wife, a Black couple. And I felt happy for them that they had a breakthrough, because this man basically thought his wife was a prude, and she wasn't a prude, but he didn't understand her sex language and she didn't understand his. And so they had a complete disconnect. After several years of marriage, they had been disconnected, but they were able to go through this work, come together and understand each other. And it obviously made a huge difference. So this is why I say that sex within, and talking about sex within the church and everything, it feels like that we need to change up the standards, because right now the way that we are handling it, for the most part, now I know that there are some churches that are doing great work in this area, but I would say overall, the history has been secrecy and shame, and to the point, and embarrassment, to the point that people are still operating that way in their marriages and their relationships. Okay, she's serious about, it's only a bad thing if the video gets out, LOL. Now that would be my concern. That would be my concern. And also, what if, God forbid, here's a divorced woman sitting here right now. What if something goes wrong in the situation and y'all don't end up staying together? Would you want the man to still have access to that video and you all are no longer married? Or God forbid, he's vindictive and a little baby and he tries to expose, even though he would be exposed too, but I'm just saying. No couples movie night though. Come on. Oh God. Right. I want to be clear on what the Christian porn is too. Yes, LOL. Okay. What the heck is Christian porn? That's some devilment. You're going to have to explain that one. What is Christian porn? That's what I was referring to. Okay. Got it. That makes sense. I see the purpose. Okay. I want to share, this is another book that I had in my home library. It's called Expose the Secret and Save Your Life, Pornaholic. Actually, a good family friend of ours wrote this book. And there's some things that he talked about in this book, just kind of telling his story and his struggle. And one of the reasons why he wrote it is to break the secrecy and the silence, because men, especially Christian men that's trying to do the right thing, that struggle with this, maybe they were exposed at an early age, or maybe a lot of men are taught this is a part of the boys will be boys thing. Men will be men. There's nothing wrong with looking at naked pictures or women or, looking at porn. There's nothing wrong with looking at Playboy and all this stuff. A lot of boys were taught that from the beginning, and that took hold of them, and they grew up like there's nothing wrong with looking at it. And then they get to a point where it's like, now they're in the church, or they're getting conflicted information from, okay, out in the streets versus when they're in the church. And then it's like, okay, there is something wrong with it now, but now I want to look at it, and now it's a shamefulness to it and all of that stuff. And so there's a lot of confusion and a lot of secrecy and all that kind of stuff. I'll answer the question. When it comes to porn, if I catch my man looking at it, or I find his stash and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Let me tell a little bit of my business. I remember I found a stash. And this wasn't when I was married. This wasn't when, for those of you all who know who I was, this was not when I was married, right? It was somebody that I was dating. I found a stash, right? And I've always been a curious person. So a sister watched. I looked at some of that. I looked at some of it. I was curious. I had never actually seen an actual, porn video or whatever. So I looked at it. This was years ago. And when I say getting those images out of my mind, this is years later. I cannot say that every now and then something out the blue, I can be it literally, let's use the grocery store. I'm looking at the bread, and all of a sudden something that I looked at pops up out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So I'm not one, I was never addicted to it, whatever. I was curious. I'm like, okay, that's good. I really don't get, off of by, looking at other people do it. I want to do it with my man. I don't get off by looking at other people do it. But I'm saying that the part of the power of that, of the visuals and the way we are made, again, this is, our physical, we are spirits having a human experience. When we expose our eyes, our ears to something, that stuff goes into our subconscious mind. We cannot ignore how we are made physically, mentally, psychologically, as well as who we are spiritually. And I think that's my whole point to the whole thing. I think we've been very heavy on the spiritual part without acknowledging that we are also sexual human beings. And we have to find a way to live the standard, but that is really going to come more so through understanding who the whole relationship with God. It has to be a revelation thing. It can't be a religious thing. Religion has not stopped nobody from having sex. Religion has not stopped anybody from looking at porn or having, self-pleasuring. Religion has not done a doggone thing, but actually push people to do it in secret. And the verdict is out for whether self-pleasuring is actually something wrong with it or not, especially if you single and you ain't getting none of that good stuff because you trying to live all it. I'm just saying, the verdict is out. Porn, I think that's pretty much falls in the black and white. Self-pleasuring falls in the gray. That is my opinion. I'm standing 10 toes down on it. I'm just saying, but out of your relationship with God, out of your studying of the word, then please do what the Holy Spirit conducts and tells you to do. I ain't telling nobody nothing. I'm just being honest about the subject, and I'm purposely being open and vulnerable because I'm tired of the BS. We need to stop this. That's what I was saying, sin or not. According to, there is nothing Okay, because this is one of the videos that I watched. There's been people that studied it out. There is nothing specifically that says self-pleasuring is wrong, but I think there's other scriptures of why, in terms of lust, like, are you thinking what you're thinking about when you're doing it? Are you partnering it with porn? I think we can all agree that, porn would clearly fall under, the sinful nature, whatever. Okay. So, but the self-pleasuring, it is but what I will say is that I encourage specifically women to learn your bodies, learn about your sexuality. I believe you have the right to do that. You should not go into marriage blindly, because I'm telling you right now, that would be the wrong way to go into it. But not out here, still, standard is still there. We shouldn't be out here fornicating. We know the stuff that we shouldn't be doing. I don't even got to reiterate that. But I'm saying that, again, this book, Expose the Secret and Save Your Life, Pornaholic. And this is from someone, and I think it's someone said earlier, let me just read this excerpt and then we're out of here. This is from the chapter, Take the Risk. If the thought of losing the life you have evokes you to fear, it must be worth taking a risk to hold on to. There are two things of which I am certain regarding the addiction of pornography. As long as it is kept in secrecy, you will never defeat it. And until you take the risk of revealing it, you will never know how much time you've lost needlessly living in fear and torment because you never trusted the ones you love to love you enough to forgive you. And then he goes on about how his marriage is stronger today, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes into how that if you are a woman, and I'm trying to find that part. Basically, he said that if you're a woman with a man that you discover is, looking at porn or whatever, that it is not your fault, ladies, that you are enough. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. Get this book, Man's Perspective. I hope it's still available. It's very old. Zarek L. Baker Sr. wrote this book. Search for it online. And if you want to read this book again, this Every Woman's Battle, Discovering God's Plan for Sexual and Emotional Fulfillment, I have to say this book raised more questions for me, that it did not make me say, yes, you're right, sister, I'm just going to go in the corner and pray some more. It did not make me feel that way. I'm just saying. But I'll be curious as to what you think. Okay. All right. You're welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. We are sexual beings. Learn your body and what makes you feel good. Interesting perspective. Okay. I'm saying self-pleasure, and I'm trying not to say the word just in case they try to get me on using the word. Also has health benefits. Do tell. What are the health benefits? I would be curious. Girl, we ain't finna read that. Q, you are funny. Oh. If Jesus is our example and the devil is a perverter, it will be helpful to filter everything through the word. The devil doesn't play fair. He gets people addicted to anything. Every person's church experience is different. The word says, the word says the enemy has planted something in all our hearts, but the word will dig it out. Everything is spiritual. Okay. Okay, it raised more questions for me too. It felt surface level and I wanted a more in-depth conversation. Yeah, I think because it was more of the same. It was more of the same what we've gotten all along, reiterating the point, as opposed to some other revelation that says this is why, this is, whatever. I don't know. It's just, I explained Christian porn above. Okay, I got to go back to that then. Okay. My Baptist church did not teach us to not be aware of our bodies okay. My Baptist church did not teach us to not be aware of our bodies and sexuality. Okay. That is okay. So that's interesting. So I think maybe again, maybe the balance, because I would say in a lot of the maybe the more evangelical word of faith, non-denominational type spaces, the focus is mainly on the purity push, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that, but what I'm saying is I think sometimes it can get off balance where the message can be interpreted or downright taught that don't even think about it. Again, don't even look at it. Don't know anything about, just stay far away from any type of sex thought, sex, nothing. Just stay away. That is the interpretation. Okay, the benefits, it releases stress for sure, promotes better sleep, releases endorphins. Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. You know what? I just thank y'all. I just think Mama Shabita, what church was that asking for a friend? Yeah. Thank you for sharing Zara's book. I dated someone once who I found out was commenting on soft porn. This stuff that's even on FB. I was completely turned off. Oh yeah. Yes. I get it. All right, y'all, we're going to wrap it up. I really appreciate you all coming on and having this conversation with me. I'm glad that you are just as interested, just as willing to shine the light on it, to have this dialogue. I think it's important. I have one more part that I want to do, and that is next week. It'll be at 9:00 as well. And we're going to talk about same sex. We're going to talk about it. We got to. All right. I love y'all. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you. Thank y'all so much, and have a great evening. Have a great night.